All right, everyone, and I welcome you back to this module. This is module 4. Welcome back to module 4. So far, we have been able to have our character and we have our idea, but a pile of brick is not a house. So we need a blueprint to build something that stands tall. So today we are going to be looking at the roadmap, story structure, and flow. I remain Olumide Joseph Obikoya from Skillmid Creatives. So we are looking at the structure and flow of our work, how it flows. Now, we are going to be going into the 5 checkpoints. I call it the 5 checkpoints because it is a way of looking at how our stories are structured. We all know that a story has a beginning, the middle, and the end, like we talked about in the first class. But then we have 5 checkpoints that makes our story expanded and real. Now, the expanded journey beats every story should eat. Like a roller coaster, the narrative must climb, drop, and resolve to create a meaningful experience for the audience. Why do I say that? The setup first, the normal life. Before the storm, establishing the character's status quo. Like before the journey begins, what is this person and what is this person? That is where we define our characters. Do we understand? Then after that, we have the incidents. The incident is the problem that arrives. The incident is the catalyst that forces the character out of their comfort zone. So that is what I was saying in the previous module. Then the struggle, the climb. The hero tries and falls, and fails. Rising tension as obstacles become increasingly difficult to overcome. So like you have a story of someone that has to face a problem. Just like David and Goliath that we have been using, he wanted to face Goliath. So he had to think of how to do that. You understand? Then the climax, the drop, the big battle, the moment of highest tension where the hero faced the ultimate challenge. Now, the but then rule. The but then rule. We have another one which is the resolution. That is where we conclude the whole thing. Now, the difference between a boring list of events and compelling narrative lies in the twist that challenge the hero. How do you challenge the hero? How do you plan that twist? If your story is just and then, it gets boring. A kingdom story works like this. Jesus was the favorite son, but then his brother sold him. He became a leader in Potiphar's house, but then he was thrown in the prison. He was forgotten, but then the king had a dream. So do you see all this every but then, is a way that it brings us a kind of feeling, not and then, but then. We have another thing, but then we have another thing. So now let's go into the next one, which is the pacing, the heartbeat. Pacing is the rhythm of your story. There's something called rhythm in song. The rhythm, the way it flows. So it controls the flows of information and emotion, determining how the audience breathes and feels throughout the journey. So, like I said, the story is a journey. So when we have the kind of pace, depends on the kind of story we want to talk about. You can see how I said fast pacing and slow pacing. When we are talking of fast pacing, we have action, chases, argument. But on slow pacing, we have thinking, praying, planning. When we have fast pacing, you have short sentence. But in slow pacing, we can have longer moments. In fast pacing, we have high energy. In slow pacing, we have time to breathe. We have time to relax in the story. So if a movie is fast all the time, the audience gets exhausted. But if it is slow all the time, they fall asleep. So you need to have a mix-up of a perfect rhythm. That's why your pacing is important. So when you are writing your story, you should be able to create a very good pacing. Where they are supposed to be fast, let them be fast. Where they are supposed to be slow, let them be slow. But all this boils down to the Holy Ghost, directing you when you write. But all this knowledge is just for you to know that these things must be involved in what you're writing. Now let's go to the next one, which is the rising action. The rising action. When we put the 5 points and pacing together, we get the story arc, which is what? The rising action. The story must get harder as it goes on. The hero cannot just coast to victory. They must face escalating challenges that will test their resolve, like I said. So you would see a normal life start, then small problem, big problem, then impossible problem that looks very, very faulty. You know, when we were young, for those that work villain and heroes, you find out that heroes will always be fighting the villain and the problems graduate onto the final scene. You understand? So this is just the way it is. Then game did but then challenge. So now we are going to go to the practical for this class. As we always do, it's very short classes, but I'm giving you the full gist of each so that you would understand as we gradually build these classes. So turn a boring scene into an exciting story by introducing unexpected twists. This practice actively sharpens your ability to create engaging plot points instantly. You know, tags starts with a complete normal boring sentence from everyday life, e.g., I walked to school. Then begin to add your twists. Add 3 twists, use the phrase but then to escalate the situation. So this is a very basic challenge for you to create your story. You know, the end goal of this is to have a very big and complex story, but gradually we are getting the idea of what we are doing. We are getting the idea of what we are trying to pass across, so that when you're writing, you understand the story flow and the structure, and you are able to put the right thing in the right places. So if you are able to do this simple I walked to school, if you walk through it and you include those but then, then you will be able to draw the arc. So the project, the story map, your mission is to map out your story journey before writing the script. Visualize the path your hero takes from the beginning to the end. So you draw the arc, draw a continuous line representing your story arc. It should rise as the tension rises, the way it moves. Then mark 5 events. Now we are not just doing beginning, middle, end. You're going to start with the setup, you start with continue with the incidents, then the struggle, then the climax and the resolution. So the resolution is the final part. That's like the conclusion. So I want you to do this basic thing from a basic single line and then bring it up and submit it. You know, you will see the full writing of your assignment on the assignment instruction tab in your Google Classroom. So the big twist, label your big twist clearly, show exactly where the but then moment changes everything. So the excitement of this is that as we are learning, basically we are putting it into practice so that you can understand what each lecture is trying to pass across. Let me just overview again before we close for today. You now have 5 things that we are looking at, which is number 1, the setup, number 2, the incidents, number 3, the struggle, the climax, and the resolution. It's 5. Sorry, that skipped out. It's 5. So when you have that, you'll be able to work on it and then submit your assignment. I pray that as we go on, the Lord will help us and give us more understanding. Let's meet again at Module 5. You have to submit to unlock that. God bless you. Take care. Bye.